I was drawing these little pictures, and I still have all, or at least most of them. Little was I to know what tragedies befall me. I'm ashamed. I hope you will forgive me. Today you are going to be seeing and hearing about what I did for Day 9 of Jillustrations. Jillustrations is the challenge that I do an illustration for every day in the month of July. When I was about 13, I designed a whole bunch of plants. Not just what they looked like, but also where they grew, what they were used for, what conditions they needed to survive, all that kind of stuff. You probably guessed it, but I kind of ended up redrawing one of these old plants from over 6 years ago. I'm not going to do my typical just regular voiceover / vlog for this illustration. I'm actually dragging my sister in to talk to her about this design because she was kind of instrumental in the creation of it, and this whole designing plants thing is something we kind of share a little bit. Also, I filmed this probably over a dozen times, and I just couldn't seem to get it right, so my solution to the problem was just dragging my sister in, and I hope that makes it a little bit more interesting for you guys. This is my sister Geneva, whom you might recognize. Actually, I don't think I mentioned her name in the actual video, but I did say that my sister inspired the cat part of my dictionary prompt. This is the sister who inspired that. Her name is Geneva. So I guess we should start with how this all started.
Well, we can start with Edge Chronicles.
If you don't know, it's a series of books that have their own extremely unique world with plants and creatures and species that are never before seen in any other world. Well, basically, when I was a little kid, I was very into fantasy, and I wanted to be a writer when I grew up. But, of course, I shouldn't say of course, but I didn't do a lot of writing when I was a little kid. I mostly did it in the form of playing games with Geneva. Okay, so apparently I have to stop the video again because my brain makes gigantic leaps and doesn't explain things that kind of need to be explained. Where I try to go with this next sentence was that because I was so into fantasy, when I was first recommended the Edge Chronicles by my friends, it was completely captivating, and it is what inspired me to really go out there and design all these plants that I designed. It was not simply the fact that I was already interested in those things. Now you know. That's what my brain was thinking. I just didn't say it.
I just remember I always liked the Edge Chronicles, and then after that I wanted to read them all, but I didn't really end up reading them all. I just looked at the pictures instead and guessed what was going to happen.
Yeah, well, it was fun times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't remember this, but I was talking to Geneva earlier, and she was basically saying that all of these plants that I designed here were basically just for a game that we were going to do. And maybe a story that I was planning on eventually writing. I do vaguely remember that part, but I don't ever remember doing this game because we didn't really get to playing it. All I remember is that for a period of time in my life, I was basically just constantly drawing these little pictures, and I still have all, or at least most of them. So, but I hadn't really touched these at all for probably over 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
and there's some that you haven't even drawn that we made. I remember some of them that we didn't, that you haven't drawn, that we made up, like we talked about.
I think she has a better memory than I do.
Also, because I think I was like jealous of it, like a drawn song.
I know.
I can never do it.
So professional. No, one of the like, there was other things I wanted to draw. Like, there was animals and races I wanted to draw, and I tried a little bit, but I was like, oh my, no thanks. Because the thing with drawing people or races or creatures, if you get their anatomy off, it looks really weird. Plants, like, who cares? It's, like, just not as noticeable. So I could do it and feel a little bit better about my skills. And actually, looking back at these, I'm impressed with how well I did. Because, I mean, I didn't really know how to, like, blend colored pencils or anything. But they're really not that bad.
Yeah. And also, I think the later on ones that you had better color. Like, the colors didn't clash as much.
Yes, in some of these ones,
they were smoother.
like, some of the color choices, I would change. It was strange because, well, I don't know, it's like I hadn't thought about it in probably over 6 years. When I was drawing this illustration, like, I didn't even know what I was drawing, really. I just started drawing circles. I was like, I should draw, like, a berry plant or something. And then I started drawing it, and I immediately knew what plant it was. And it was one of those old plants that we designed. And I say we because I didn't really come up with the idea for it at all.
We were picking raspberries, and I was like, what if there's these berries like this, but they're different, and they sort of have the same sort of circular shape, and maybe they're bigger or something. And you're like, yes, bucket berries. And I was like, And then we just designed from there, and apparently they're bigger than a full-grown person. But I think later on,
well, they're like half of the size of a full-grown person, so it's just like.
Yeah, like on your drawing though, you have like this stick figure that's
actually,
and it's just like, and they're the actual size compared to this person, and I don't know, I think I was like, for some reason, I just remember because we were walking outside, and you were telling me about this, and I was just like, sort of in my brain because I just couldn't imagine them as big as a person.
I think I lost the original. I was just thinking it would, it would turn up somewhere in my room. But now that I think about it, I think I left it on the kitchen table. If you live in my house, you know what happens to things of seemingly no consequence that are left on the kitchen table. They get thrown away. So it's probably sitting in a trash heap somewhere, and I will never get it again. I can't believe it's come to this. I think I'm going to have to, for the sake of demonstrations, create a fake of the original. Thankfully, I do have a pretty good mental image of what it looked like in my head, but oh no. So here's me trying to create a counterfeit of my own original artwork. I can't believe it's come to this. Yes, I'm afraid to say that I've been lying to you this whole time. This is not actually the original. I'm ashamed. I hope you will forgive me. Well, looking back on it, because I started drawing this picture without referencing the original at all. So the first picture, like when I look back at it and I saw the little stick figure besides the berries, I was like, yeah, I did not remember them being that big. I always pictured them, and I say always, like always in my memory, pictured them like about this big. Not like half of the size of a human.
I always thought of them like this big.
Yeah.
Well, I thought of them this big, and originally I thought of them just this big, and they're like this big, and then eventually you're just like as big as a person. I was just like, I can't imagine that in my head. Just too, especially because it was supposed to be the berries, not just the bush, the berries. So how big is the bush has to be?
I know.
I was just
that
like,
basically.
I was just overwhelmed because I couldn't think.
Well,
of what
I drew it. I drew the picture in the original basically like a tree, and I don't really picture it as a tree now. I picture it more like a bush. Like a really large bush, but still a bush. I actually changed a lot of things in the design of this berry bush, I guess. I changed the leaves. I changed kind of the shape of the berries a bit. They look more like they're like little ovals rather
they look
than
more like grapes
than circles. And
more like grapes, then.
They're not as structured. Like the original bucket berry is supposed to be like a bucket, like it has a cup. inside of it, like kind of like a bucket. That's where the name came from. Like a lot of the redesigns I did, first of all, were completely by accident, like the shape of the berries, the fact that they're not as structured, the leaves, the size. I just forgot they were originally that size. But most of them I really like the changes. I prefer them over the original. I'm thinking perhaps of taking some of my old plant designs and actually redesigning them. If you're interested in seeing me redesign all, or at least some of my different plants, and maybe even doing a redesign of this, let me know. And even if you don't want to see that, you probably will, so yeah. Just saying.
Like Ben was saying, a different time, like before we did this, after she first showed me it, that making it, she make it more like buckets, and you could see the different, because apparently, I know that the different colors of the berries are the different stages, and they're just to fall apart more, but in here, you can't see as much when they fall apart. Like, you can see a little bit more.
And they're so compact together.
And mushy. They're so compact that it just looks like they're different colors.
It could look like this was actually one big berry right here.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, it was just like a super quick doodle. I hardly erased anything, I hardly planned anything. But it just makes me really excited about this, about going back to something that I did and I really love. And who knows, maybe I'll get back into designing all these flowers, and Geneva can jog my memory for what I even said about them. And there you have it. Let me know what you think about this different format. It hasn't really been something I've ever tried before. Do you like it? Do you think it needs to be tweaked a bit? Or should I just completely throw it out? No matter what you say, I promise I won't be offended. So please let me know. I would appreciate that. I'll leave a poll for you in the cards to vote. Or you can leave a comment. It's up to you.
Just pretend we didn't do anything else. Okay. Yeah.
This is my sister Geneva. You might recognize.
Oh, really? You can't even attack today.